all are here to hear the unvarnished insights of what it's like the day of the life of a early stage founder. We have three really great ones for you today who will tell you their experience. They promise not to hold anything back. I'm Adam Burrows. I'll be moderating. I'm a co-founder of Range Ventures. We're a seed stage fund based here in Denver, focused on backing local entrepreneurs. And so with that, I'll let the great panelists introduce themselves. I'll start with Brad.
All right. Hey, Brad Rager. I'm founder of a company called Crux. We are building a talent marketplace for cybersecurity.
Hello. Also, there are some seats still. I don't think we mind if you all want to funnel in. My name's Amanda Stefan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Jawa.gg. Jawa is a marketplace to buy and sell gaming gear, so think eBay, but custom gaming PCs and everything that goes into them. Launched in 2021, and we raised our seed round with Range as our lead a little over a year ago. And very excited to be here. I'm based in Boulder, Jawa's based in Boulder, but the Denver Boulder startup community has been really instrumental in getting us access to resources and relationships that help us grow our business. So very happy to be here.
Hi everyone, this is Manish Kapoor. I'm the founder and CEO of TrueKnow. We are a startup based in cybersecurity as well. We focus on cyber threat detection and hunting. And we are about 12 people right now and growing. And we are an early stage company at this point still.
Great, thanks. So I have a bunch of questions here for about 45 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions. So anything you all want to know, please say that, and we'll definitely make sure to get it covered. Manish, I'll start with you. You know, one of the things I think is the most interesting when you talk to entrepreneurs is how did they actually decide to take the plunge? And I know you worked at corporate jobs, nice offices like this, benefits, all that, and now you're out on your own. How did you decide to go pull the trigger and do it?
So just my background. So before founding the company, I was at a corporation called Cisco Systems, which is a very big name in the networking world, and it was amazing. Adam, I used to any meeting with anybody was so easy to get. It was actually one of the biggest perks of having such a big brand name. But I would say there are three key reasons and three key ways I decided to take the plunge. Number one was a problem I wanted to solve, right? And I say this to every founder who is actually already thinking of finding a company. If you're thinking you want to find a company because it's cool to be founder, you want to make millions and billions and trillions, maybe there are better ways to do that, okay? Because the road is very long and it has lots of ups and downs. But if you really have a problem you want to solve, especially if you have felt that problem big time yourself, that is a really, really good recipe to go solve that problem. Because when things are not working well, you still have that problem you want to solve in the world, okay? So that's the one thing I had found was I had a problem I wanted to solve. Second thing was I had been in the corporate job for 10 years and wanted to go do new things and learn. And even with all that, trust me, problem to solve, I wanted to go new things, I was dragging my feet for probably 4 to 6 months. And this is by chance. What happened is somebody recommended me a book just out of the random, and I started reading the book, and the book is called Alchemist. It's by a Brazilian author called Paulo Coelho. And in the book, as I was reading, while I'm struggling to leave a cushy job and take this plunge, was a line that really made me make my decision. And the line was, if you truly believe in something, the world will conspire to help you. And trust me, it's been a hard journey, but the world has truly conspired to help me, and they still are. So that's the reason I took the plunge.
That's awesome. Awesome. Amanda, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I also had a problem to solve, and I woke up and said I want to be a trillionaire. So, you can still go that route. No, but it's pretty similar. So I actually spent the first 8 months or so at building Java while I still had a full-time job, and it was a pretty stereotypical working in a cubicle, 9 to 5, 17 layers of hierarchy to get to a decision. And so I could see, like, in the same day, the contrast of I'd go home and I'd turn on my Java work, and I was just so energized because I would do something, I would test something, I would see the results the next day, it could be scrappy. I was going out and just like interviewing hundreds of gamers, and it really fueled me. And so to me, it was, when can I jump in? Not, full time, not if. And so for me, it was just really deciding when is the right time for this. And that was when there was really traction, some proof of traction for us. We focused on building a community first. And so there were thousands of gamers kind of in our orbit telling me that this is something that they wanted. I felt confident that this is the time that I should really focus on accelerating our path to MVP so I can get this out there when the community's feeling it, when the market is right. And so for me, that was about 8 months after building it in the background. And it's been several years since then. And I'm very happy with that decision. Can't imagine going back to the cubicle.
So Brad started his career in consulting like I did, which is a notoriously risk-averse place to go. So Brad, how'd you get from there to here to go start your own company?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I mean, I did not really think that my career path was going to take me down an entrepreneurial road. But the cool thing about just running through a career is you learn what you're good at, you learn what your passions are, you learn what you don't like, just as much as what you do like. And I had gone from consulting to a couple of big companies, worked with some amazing people, but also been, frustrated kind of because I'm an action-oriented person, and trying to get things done in big companies can be tedious. And, so I kind of came to this realization, all right, I would like to go smaller. I left the prior company that I was at, which is a cybersecurity company. Spent about a month or two sort of thinking about things, looking at things, and an idea hit me that really was at the intersection of a lot of pain points and challenges that we'd heard from our clients at my last job. And it really was all around the people side of cybersecurity. And as I kind of got out into the market and did my diligence and spoke with people who run security departments and listened to their problems and looked at what was out in the world, I realized that there was this challenge in this need that also hit one of my passion points. And I thought, this is what I'm called to do. This is what I have to do. And even though I'm not the most, risk-taking person in the world, I just had this confidence that there's a good alignment with my skill set. There are real problems out there to be solved, and this is something that I would bring my whole heart and my whole head into. And once I realized that, I said, all right, I'm all in. This is what I'm doing.
Awesome. So it seems like all three of you started or came from corporate jobs. What's been you alluded to some of it, but whoever wants to take this, what's been the biggest trade-offs? Like if you think about your day-to-day, the stress levels you have, the excitement levels you have, what have been the biggest trade-offs versus having kind of a regular job?
Sure. So I like to say there's no BS in my day. Everything that I do is my choice. There's always so much more to be done than I have time to do it. So it's kind of this big thing of portfolio management, and you can always do more as a startup. I get to choose what I do. I get to choose where I spend my time, and that agency for me has been amazing. It also comes without, all of the things in terms of support that you get at a large company, right? And so there are many trade-offs associated with choosing to start your own company. But for me, kind of the necessity to be frugal, the necessity to be creative, the necessity to be really, really scrappy is quite different than the large corporate type of environments that I was at before. But I just love the freedom to go execute and drive and not hit, political walls and stuff like that. That is not my existence these days.
Yeah, very similar. The autonomy is amazing. It also means you have to be autonomous. And, it's just very different. Like, I felt like corporate job was kind of task-oriented, and you can have this illusion of productivity by going through your task list, and then your results are delayed. And by 6 months or something, and owning your own business, it's like, okay, every day, what am I gonna do today that's going to drive my business forward? And that can be very empowering and sometimes a little overwhelming. And then, of course, it's just the mentality of the buck stops with you. And for me, it's like the constant thinking about my business, but it's not like I have to, it's because I'm obsessed with it, but that's a good and a bad thing. Like, I joke that it's like I have an invisible IV with the sales just like pumping into my veins, because my mood is very correlated with how our sales are doing. And so the highs are high and the lows can be very low. And so it's fun, but it's definitely a trade-off just in terms of your kind of mental energy in the day-to-day.
You know, one of the things I think is interesting for founders, it's so intense, right? As Amanda just alluded to, you're living it all the time. Big decision of, do you bring on a co-founder or co-founders, or do you go it alone? I know you all have made some different choices. Manish, you've gone it alone. How did you make the decision to do that?
Well, I started alone, and actually, let me answer on the last question, because I wanted to share some things. I would say, so I was in corporate world for 20 years, and the beautiful part of corporate world is you know exactly what you need to deliver, what resources you have. You know, if you're in sales, this is your quota, this is the product, and this is who you sell to. Okay, pretty straightforward. The number one thing as a startup founder you're dealing with, right? If I have to sum up everything you do as a startup founder, you become the master in dealing with uncertainties, okay? That is what a startup founder's job is. And that comes in so many flavors, okay? If you have to figure out, if somebody says, hey, go figure this out, like in my last job, again, in corporate job, they'll say, go figure this out. They usually meant, hey, go talk to these two people in this department and find out, you know, what we need to do. But in a startup position, it's like, go figure out how we're gonna sell this product to, or what we're gonna build. There are 1,000 uncertainties, and you need to solve them all yourself. Of course, with resources around you, and hopefully your co-founders and other people. So that is the number one thing that is difference between a corporate job and a startup founder's job is, if you cannot deal with uncertainty, it is the best thing you want to do is become a startup founder, because it will force you to deal with uncertainty, right? They say, if you want to overcome a fear, go do it. If that is what you want to do, if you have any issues with uncertainty. Then question about founder and co-founder. So I wanted to solve a problem, left, and started to go to, talk to people about the problem I wanted to solve. And I literally, one thing other founders had told me was, it's a tough journey, and don't go alone, so go, find a co-founder. But how do you go find a co-founder? So I started to go to all the meetups, and I literally would scan the room as like, potential co-founder, talk to him. That guy, never will talk to him again, never a co-founder material. So you go through these phases of, looking for the co-founder, and there are two key criterias I was looking through when I was making a decision on co-founder, at least in my head. Number one was, has to be somebody complementary to me, okay? So has to be somebody who is much more technical, even though I have an electrical engineering degree. I've been always in the sales part, the business part of the world. So I said, okay, I need somebody who can complement me. That's the number one criteria. The number two criteria, and I coined this term, and I use this for everything now. I said, whoever I work with, whoever I hire, whoever my co-founder is, I'm gonna only work with big people, okay? BIGG, brilliantly intelligent and genuinely good, okay? Because there are lots of brilliantly intelligent people, but they are a-holes, and you do not want them to be your co-founders. It's just like marriage. So genuinely good is even more important than technical, than anything else, because that's what you need to keep you up when times are tough.
It's definitely true. I mean, I talk to my co-founder more than I talk to my spouse. Is that the case for you, Amanda, as well? Oh, you didn't say that. Okay. Sorry, Claudio. Sorry. No, but I think that speaks to how intense of a relationship it ends up being. Amanda, how about you?
Yeah, so I brought on a co-founder about in that like 8-month time period when decided to jump into Java full time. And to me, it's like I would not want to do this alone, and resonate with everything you said, especially around complementary, not just in skill sets, but for me and my co-founder, who's also our CTO, very much our personalities and reaction to stress is complementary and very different, which I find helps a lot because we've talked about the ups and downs. It's so helpful for me to have someone who can pick me up when I'm down, and I do the same for him. And that helps of just us being very different personalities. And the other thing for me that worked out really well is I kind of had a trial period. So at first, Andrew, my co-founder, was a contractor and he was building out the platform, but I knew we went through the tribulations. I saw firsthand that he was a big co-founder, when we went through, had disagreements, how would we handle that? Could we get past it? What was the working relationship like? So I found it hugely beneficial to actually experience that before diving in and bringing him on as a co-founder. But yeah, I think in terms of just the partnership, having someone there to share both in the business strategy but also emotionally has been very important for me to get to a successful outcome.
Brett, I know you, like Manish, started alone and then went out to go find some folks to work with you.
Yeah, so I found my co-founder through a friend, kind of a friend of a friend, and I'll just echo what they said. I mean, completely complementary in terms of skill sets. I'd never done a startup. He's done a number of startups, so I call him like my startup Yoda. I mean, he was just kind of don't do this, let's do this, and so he gave me all that good advice that you might get at going through an accelerator or boot camp or something. And he's technical and brought all the technical skills. But what's kind of cool about our relationship is my business is leaning pretty heavily on services to start with. So the work didn't necessarily require a full-time commitment. So he's part-time on my business, part-time on a few other businesses. We work extremely well together, and it's just a really nice balance. And so, I think when I was starting to go down this journey, I thought, I'm going to raise, I do the VC thing, and kind of go through all these requisite steps. And when I stepped back, it was like, why am I looking for a co-founder? Am I looking for a co-founder because I've heard that VCs always want two founders, or am I looking for a co-founder to help me get the things that need to get done for my business at this stage with the right type of person that I need to be in the foxhole with? And so I kind of stumbled my way into it, but it was a good experience, and it's been awesome so far.
Brett, so you touched on the next topic I wanted to cover, which is funding. How do you actually get the money to go do this, right? I think 3 different paths actually represented up on the stage, which is cool. Brett, maybe you could start. I mean, you went from thinking about raising money to just bootstrapping it to date.
Yeah.
What's that been like?
So I kind of went down the path of venture, and I realized with my business model, we ought to be able to get to profitability relatively quickly. So why was I looking to raise institutional money? Did I need it? There's obviously a set of trade-offs. My business is moving and getting off the ground at a slower pace than it would have if I had institutional financing, but that's okay. There's also, different, positive trade-offs associated with that. The way I looked at it was either way, bootstrap or raise institutional money, traction is a good thing. And so let's go get to traction and create options for the business. Should I want to raise, or should I get it to the point where it's profitable enough I can put all the money that I need to into the product side and the investment side? So that's the path that I've been going down. Also, in this market, it is tougher for financing. Terms aren't as good. And so for me, it just made sense with my business model and the way that I wanted to kind of grow my business. But I think there's a handful of questions that every founder really needs to ask about themselves, about their business, and about the outcomes they're trying to achieve, which really were the questions when I spoke with Adam and other friends of mine that are on the VC side of things. Those were the questions they asked me, and that self-discovery is really, really helpful. And most businesses are not VC-backed startup businesses. Most businesses are bootstrapped, so there are multiple ways you can go through to build your business and build your balance sheet.
Manish, you've done bootstrapping and actually crowdfunding more recently. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, so very early on when I was thinking of starting the business again, talking to stakeholders and all that, at the same time, I started to talk to a lot of VCs. And I learned very quickly, and again, Adam, you probably have a much more broader perspective because you are a VC, but I'm going to nutshell into two buckets I learned, okay? Simplistic buckets, but what I have learned is VCs look at all the startups and the founders and put them into two buckets. Again, I'm giving a simplistic version of it. One bucket is you've founded a company before, you had an exit, you're a proven leader, and you're working on something new, cool now. Okay, you've proven yourself, and you're working on something brand new. And if you're that kind of founder, you can have a PowerPoint, one slide, telling about the problem, and it's a real problem in a big market potentially. I have seen investors give $5 million at a pretty good valuation with again, you've already made your name and you are working on a real problem, and at that stage, they're trusting you, your track record and everything else. Okay, that's one bucket. The second bucket is, hey, again, the term they will use is, you're a first-time founder and you're working on building another mousetrap, okay? Remember that word, mousetrap. Every founder is getting put into that bucket of, if you're building on something that, hey, you're building something better, it already exists, but you're building something better and is better, faster, cheaper, whatever that is. In that case, you're a first-time founder, you're building something that already exists, but you think you're building it better. What they're looking for is traction. And Brad mentioned it's traction, 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 because you don't have the background. So it's all about, is your mousetrap actually getting traction or not? So that is how I learned the lesson, knocking on doors, and they were like, okay, go build a product, show me some traction, then come back. And that's what I started to do. Is fortunately I was able to invest some personal investment into the business. And then later on, I recently went through a crowdfunding round. And frankly, before I did the crowdfunding, I was worried that, hey, if I did crowdfunding, how will the investors look at it? And I've talked to enough investors, everybody has their angle. And at some point, I said, I'm just going to do it, okay? I need the capital. Once I have the capital, I can use that to grow the business. And at the end of the day, some VCs don't like crowdfunding on their cap table, a founding company, but says, heck, as a founder, I need to do what I need to do to grow the business. And if they don't like that, tough luck. We'll find somebody else.
And Amanda, you have taken VC funding from the evil VCs in town. What that's been? What has that been like for you?
Yeah. So I raised our seed round, like I said, it was last August, so a little over a year ago, and I got one good night of sleep, and then I woke up to more bosses and more pressure. And no, but I mean, it's been, to me, also part of it's the type of business. I'm building a marketplace, and typically, margins are relatively low. You're taking like a 10 to 15% cut on the transactions. So you need to be $1 billion business to really, make a dent in that market. And so for me, I just knew that's what we're building. We need an influx of capital to do this. And so part of it was just thinking it from that perspective. But for me, it's also just been, I am a first-time founder. Fundraising process was a grind, but Range led the investment. Chris is Adam's partner, who's on my board, and he has experience scaling a huge marketplace. And so for me, that was really fundamental and crucial in getting access to those, that expertise where it's very much informing how I'm building my business going forward. I've already seen it pay off just in some of the decisions that we've been making since having that guidance. And so for me, it's been a very good experience, but certainly, the pressure is there. It's kind of expectations always get higher. You meet your goals, and then it's, you have higher goals the next day. And so I think that's probably the same with all of us, but it's certainly been a little bit of that balance of managing my business and managing my board and my investors as well.
I think this is something you'll probably hear if you go to other panels throughout Startup Week, because it's always a theme, is that most companies actually shouldn't take VC money, right? There's going to be a lot of us like moderating panels on panels throughout the week, but for most businesses, that's not the right answer. VC money actually kills a lot of businesses if you, as a founder, don't have kind of the right expectation and ambitions of like, I want this to be huge or bust, which is not necessarily the rational way to build a business. It's not the right mechanism. But for those who do, it's great. That's why we do what we do, and there's a lot of great founders out there who have. So I'd encourage anybody who's a founder, right, to just meet other founders and hear their story if that's something you're deciding on. Wanted to segue too into, Amanda, you just alluded to like the pressure that you're under as a founder, no matter how you're funding your business. How do you all cope with that stress and pressure and take care of your own mental health?
Yeah, it is a lot of pressure, right? And it is a lot of uncertainty, right? And right now I'm in the stage, I'm not getting paid, so I watch my bank account every month just kind of go goop, doop, doop, doop. And it's like, all right, we got to get this revenue curve up faster. So while I don't have a board breathing down my neck, I do have me breathing down my neck, right? So it's a lot of stress, but I find that I think in life we're all more than just one thing, right? We have a social life, we have our families, we may have faith, we have social interaction, we have what we do, right? And so I think a lot of life is about trying to be the best you can be across all the dimensions of who you are. And for me, it's always important not to get too far out of balance, because I know that if I'm really failing in any one dimension, I'm not going to feel good. If I don't work out for 3 weeks, I'm not going to feel good, right? If I'm not being the father that my kids need, I'm not going to feel good. So the way I kind of handle this is I kind of set standards for myself across all the dimensions of my life, and then I kind of try to optimize for the business around that. And it does leave me enough space and mental energy for the business, but I can accept something getting pushed out a month on the business side. I can't accept, not being there for my kids, right? And so those are the values that I kind of set for myself, and it's how I optimize my day and my life. And thank God I have the flexibility now to do that in ways that I have not had in the past. And the flexibility of being a founder is great, but the pressure is real and it is stressful, and you just gotta know what recharges your batteries and take the time to invest in that, because you can burn yourself out real fast.
Yeah, I mean, all those things are what I aspire to for sure. The people you surround yourself with, what you're doing, trying to have balance, friends, my co-founder, my husband, therapist, and I think also just trying to document when you do have success and when things are going well, and just write it down and congratulate yourself and celebrate that is an important way to kind of balance out when things are low. You have something that you can look back on and start kind of that's one of the methods that I recharge in a way, but a lot of what Brad said.
I have a laundry list of things I want to share. Okay, so I'm going to nutshell. I was thinking about this and saying, okay, what are my challenges if I could put them on a top 4 or 5 list? Number one challenge for me as a startup founder is always on. Okay, I remember being at a corporate cushy job, 5 o'clock, thanks God it's Friday, not my headache, we'll look at it on Monday, right? But as a founder, it is your headache, and it's like your baby, right? So it's always on is a real problem. Like, no matter you're watching a movie and you're still thinking about, what do I do with that feature? That thing that doesn't work, right? What should I increase the pricing? Should I decrease the pricing? What would it do to the sales? All those things are always on. That's number one problem for me. Number two problem for me is pressure of time. Okay, and this pressure is really, if I was going to summarize what is a pressure, it's actually the pressure of time. It's like if you are going to a meeting in a car and you're like, I need to get there by 8 o'clock, very important meeting, and it's, the GPS says 10 minutes away and I need to be there in 5 minutes. That's how it feels like. you're going to run out of cash, you're going to run out of this, you're going to run out of that. That pressure of time is a real killer. So really, really important to understand you will feel the pressure of time and deal with it. The third one is rejections, okay? I couldn't count number of rejections I've been told no, okay? Customers, VCs, it's just no matter how strong you are, no matter how much support you have around you, a no is a no, and no matter what your ego is, you're very humble, but no is a no, it does impact you. And so that is, and then the last one I would say is, and this is very real. Working long hours is hard work, but it's a different pressure. Working long hours without break is a killer. Okay? So working long hours is not a problem. I can work long hours. I've done it all my life. But the problem is when you think it's your baby, you need to take care of it, let's just reply one more email. Let's just go 30 minutes more. And sometimes I'm on the computer replying for 5 hours without, even turning. And that, you don't realize it, is a real killer. So I would say those are the 4 real challenges we as founders live and breathe, but I think some of these things are not just for founder, all of us. And what has worked for me to, address some of these things is, number one, for me has been, frankly, I'm not a very religious person, so I don't pray, I don't meditate. I've tried meditation, I suck at it, and causes me more. My wife jokes that don't let your doctor say you need to relax, because you will stress about relaxing. So I just cannot do that. So what has worked for me is running. I religiously run every day, and I kid you not, at the end of the run, it's a uphill, and I barely can get to the top of the hill, and I get to the top of the hill, and I say, I'm from India originally, and I raise my hand and say, "Main jeet gaya," which means I won. So no matter how many no's I heard, but today I won, okay? And that has worked for me. And then the second last one is mindset, okay? Be conscious of your mindset, be conscious of your words. So no matter how many challenges you face, if you say it sucks, trust me, the next minute it sucks even more. So no matter how many challenges you say, it's okay, tomorrow is gonna be better, just those words change your mindset. So keeping that mindset is more important than anything else you do as a founder. That's my laundry list.
How many founders or aspiring founders are in the room? Raise your hand. Okay, good. This is the right audience. Great. Well, I think it'd be great to hear from each of you maybe 1 or 2 things that you wish you had known when you were in everyone else's seat that you can impart and hopefully save them a few headaches along the way.
I think for me, I wish I would have, like, everybody says it's hard. It is hard. And you have to be down and game for something that's hard. And I mean, I think as founders, because we're founders, we sort of are willing to set aside maybe sometimes some rational cost-benefit calculations and just dive into it. And that's a hell of a personality attribute. But you also have to be resilient, right? And for me, like my big lesson has been just time. I think I've never been a great person at estimating the time of a task or the time to traction. Things do end up longer. They're rarely shorter than you think they're going to be. They're often longer. And you have to make sure that you are able to cope with that. You're able to manage that. You're able to focus. You're able to drive. And as Manish said, push your way through it. I've been able to do that so far, but it doesn't mean that every day is an easy day, because it's not. But it is great, and it's the most rewarding thing I've done with my career so far.
Mine might be a little bit opposite, or maybe not opposite, but kind of like I always had this inkling that this was something I wanted to do, and depending on who you surround yourself with, and if you are working a big corporate job, you'll hear a lot of like, that's crazy, and a lot of talk about risk. And at the end of the day, now, the environment's changed. I have a lot of friends at large corporations who got laid off. It's like, what is risk? And now here I am in a, yes, very risky career, but I have control over how we're spending our money and much more impact into the success of the business and what I'm working on. And so I think for me, it was just telling myself, several years ago, like, kind of trust your gut and your intuition. And if this is something that you're excited about, that makes all the difference just in how I show up every day, how much I'm feeling fulfilled in my work and personal life. And so it'd be just really kind of listen to your internal intuition and try not to get too bogged down with the advice that other people, especially in large corporate America, might tell you.
Can I put an exclamation point on that just about risk? Because I had gone through my last two jobs. It was like amazing things were happening, and then somebody shifted out in the organization, and all of a sudden that had a big impact on me and my career. And I was like, this is something I can't change. This just happened, right? And I've always been the type of person, like, I've got to focus on what I can focus on and drive what I can drive. And it really bugged me that things would happen in my career that I just really had no control over. And so for me, like that, I viewed starting my own thing as a less risky proposition because I knew myself and my strengths and the market opportunity than going into some big company and being subject to the fortunes of whatever market they're in or whatever boss comes in or whatever that may be. And that really is a very real thing.
So I would say top two lessons learned for me as a founder has been, at least on the business side, is number one is it's all about, if you think of one of the biggest mistakes I guess I have made is not prioritize correctly. So I would say as a founder looking back, prioritization is probably one of the most important things I missed the boat on in some cases, right? I frankly focused on some things versus other things. Again, I could give many examples, but because you have 1,000, things you need to do, you wear 10 hats. I would say the number one lesson learned is prioritize correctly. Okay. The number two lesson I would say is, especially as an early stage founder, an early company, good enough is good enough. Okay. Because we as founders want we want our baby to be beautiful, 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 and so the world can say, what a beautiful thing you have created. And that takes time, energy, money, and all that, and which you don't have any of. What you need to sell early on when you are just getting started is your vision and a half-baked baby, okay? But people will buy your vision and go with your half-baked baby. And that is the critical traction you need for investors. You also the critical traction need for cash flow. So again, good enough is good enough. Maybe in your head it is not, but for majority of the people who look at your vision of what you're trying to do, the problem trying to solve, they frankly want to support you and willing to, buy the product if it's half-baked and actually help you make it better. So those are the top two: prioritization correctly, and good enough is good enough.
Those are great. Who has questions?
Yeah. So I have a partner question. And it's not actually a direct question. I to kind of just be interested to hear thoughts. So I'm recently splitting up with a partner, and he definitely is BBIG. But what I realized after a couple of years is that he doesn't have the kind of just the desire to just do whatever it takes as a founder. So that's where the disconnect is. But a lot of the separation, which honestly, if he wasn't a good person, it's hard. The separation, everything is extremely challenging. I can't even imagine if he was like trying to screw me over. But a lot of the, through the process of doing this, I think it's like maybe it's like, instead of like looking at I was definitely doing like 80%. And he did what he was good at, but wasn't willing to do whatever it took. And but I think back a lot and I'm like, well, maybe I just didn't do enough. Like maybe it is just me. Maybe what it needed, the balance that I was looking for is not really, is a dream. And I just, so I just wanted to put that out there as a curiosity and just your thoughts, like, I'm thinking like, okay, I want to now like find people that not only have the skill set but also can balance the responsibilities to allow me to focus on, yes, whatever it takes, but also what I'm good at. But you always hear like you got to do everything it takes, and I just think like, is it me? Was I not doing enough? So I just wanted to see your thoughts on that if you have it.
I don't have experience with a co-founder breakup, but just in terms of hiring and firing, typically, once you're at the stage where you're questioning, is this right? Is this wrong? That means it's wrong. Yeah. And then, there's always the like, oh my God, well, I should have like set this person up for success more, or should I try to, put a plan in place? And at this stage, when every moment and every dollar is so crucial, it's all the advice I've ever gotten is no one's ever gone through that breakup and said, I wish I would have done this later. It's always, I wish I would have done this sooner. And so I think the self-reflection part is, important, and maybe talk to a coach or people who know you in a professional capacity to kind of see if there's some learnings you can take. But from my perspective, in terms of like making that decision and moving forward, it's usually like once those questions arise, that means it's time. So in a way, I'm sorry and congratulations, because it's, it'll get you closer to your next move.
I was gonna say, when I make those kind of decisions, I look through two lenses. One is, the term I use is this person on the bus or off the bus, right? If sometimes you're either on the bus and going in this direction and we're gonna together reach somewhere, or you're halfway, or you're not on the bus, right? That's the decision I'm making is this person on the bus or not on the bus? If they're on the bus, then the next question is, hey, can they just figure it out, right? When I think of brilliantly intelligent, I don't think of, hey, is this person have a PhD in this topic or not? I think of, no matter what degree they have or not, if they are a programmer or whatever their task is, can they actually figure it out, right? So if you're on the bus, and ideal criteria, you're on the bus and you can figure it out, just a matter of time. And if the worst case scenario, you're not on the bus and you cannot figure it out, right? So that's the lens I think through is this person motivated to figure it out? And if worst case scenario, they're not committed and they cannot figure it out.
So to set up the stage, I come from corporate world, I have something baking on the side, and I guess a very common question is, what can I do at my job that will set me up to success as a founder? Because I truly come from the belief that our corporate jobs are just waiting for us to build all the necessary skills to progress at some point to lead our own thing. They don't see the box telling me what to do. If I had really good ideas, I could go to CEO and tell them what to do, and they will listen to me if they're good CEOs. So what can we do to suck less and to set up ourselves for success when we are founders?
I mean, I guess the simple advice I would give would be to put yourself in uncomfortable situations where you're gonna have to grow. You're gonna have to think your way through things. You're gonna be leaning into muscles that maybe aren't muscles that you've built before, and you got to make it happen. Because when you're a founder, even when you have a co-founder, like it's you're both all on everything, right? Like there are responsibilities, and you have to stretch yourself in ways that you might not be comfortable being stretched, and that'll help you grow.
Another color on this, I would say, is one of the most important things as a founder that will come in handy are your relationships, especially in your field, right? We're in cyber, and relationship, for example, with CISOs, chief information security officers, and right IT directors and so forth are very handy. So while you have that fancy business card, which will, people look at you up on LinkedIn like, oh, okay, it looks like, this guy works in a pretty cool company and is in my industry. They will take your call. So start building that network while you're at a corporate job. When you go to a brand new company who's like, who the heck is this guy? Is one employee and they will not take that call. So start building those relationships and start actually asking those, the problem you think exists, don't ask it in the, hey, would you buy it? Start, in the side understanding, does this problem actually exist? What is the details? Hey, that's something you need to do in your own business. Might as well start doing it while somebody's paying you for it. So that's what I would do, is start building the relationships, because they will come in very handy, and start figuring out some of the product market fit while you're at your job.
I was just curious, as founders, you have to wear a lot of different hats, and before you're in a position where you can kind of pay people to take care of things that really aren't in your wheelhouse, as a founder in the beginning, how do you approach all of those things that really aren't your wheelhouse? Like if you're not really good at the numbers modeling, you just figure it out. How do you kind of approach this?
Yeah, and similar to Alex's question, because I think one of the things you can do while you're at a larger company that when I look back in retrospect is like just try to know enough to be dangerous in different areas, because that, what you're referring to, has been a challenge, certainly as a CEO, hiring in areas where I'm not an expert. And so it's trial and error of, especially like for me with marketers, because they're really good at selling their skills. It's like you can hear, you'll bring someone on, and then only through trial and error do you realize, oh, I wish I would have asked this question. I know this is important. You kind of get better at the diligence and the vetting for those resources. And so that's one angle. And then the second thing is who does it and when. Yeah, you got to be scrappy, try to figure stuff out. I think I've gone back and forth of, oh, let me hire to solve this problem, to know I need to figure out how to solve the problem and then hire someone to go execute and make it and, grow it. And so it's certainly just a balance based on your resources, your priorities, your own skill set, your team's skill set. So I hope that was helpful. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think it's like anything else, but especially with this job, it's incredibly important to know yourself and know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, be comfortable filling in those gaps in the areas that you may be deficient. But it does help to have a personality trait where you're comfortable diving into anything and you can learn really quick, because that just is a lot of the job, is diving into new challenges.
Yes, so this question is from Minesh. So what challenges, if any, have you faced as a person of color in the startup space?
I would say, frankly, one of the fundamental reasons I'm doing what I'm doing is, like I said, the original thing that conspired me, right? It's the people around you will conspire. So I say this to my kids as well. I said, okay, the world is divided into two kinds of people: good people and bad people. Okay, and it's sometimes those bad people will use your color as a example to teach you bad. Others will choose your, if you're from the South of America, or even if you have an accent from, let's say, Texas. Nothing against Texas, but you're a white person, but your accent is from Texas. Bad people will find an excuse to treat you bad, and sometimes happen to be your color is one of those excuses. So I would not say specifically because I'm, person of color, I've seen that issue, but I just think there are just good people and bad people, and that's how it is. You just look for the good people and you move on from the bad people as soon as you can.
So I guess that part of being a founder is betting on yourself, which is like a big deal. So what has that been like for you to bet on yourself? Why was that hard? Maybe to decide, like, why not me? Like, I'm capable of doing this. What was that experience like?
Betting on myself. Yeah, it is hard. It is empowering. I think for me, let's see, how do I answer this? I was confident in what I was building and in my skill set and in our traction and in our resources, and mostly just driven by excitement. And then once I'm in it, then it comes more of these like pauses and questions of like, oh my God, can I do this? You know, am I the right person to do this? And I think it goes back to the support network and even just like really cheesy things. Like, what are things you're good at? Like, I love karaoke. Like, I will go and do something that I know I'm gonna get a standing ovation and like it's gonna remind me that I am awesome. And then I like carry that energy into my work life. Like, you have to really get creative sometimes on the dark days. But yeah, I mean, I think of it as it's really empowering, and like I just remind myself, and I'm a very supportive husband where it's like I'm very proud, and so I just go back to that feeling. Yeah, something like that.
Just on that, I would say it's a constant balance of confidence, showing confidence inside you're paranoid, am I going the wrong way? But showing confidence and humbleness, right? Because too confident, heck, I know everything I'm doing, I know the problem, I know that, can lead you the wrong way. But you need to have that confidence, because if you don't believe in what you're doing and your product and so forth, nobody else will. So at the same time, having that humbleness also, being able to listen between the lines when people ask a question, why it doesn't do that, does it do that? So it's a balance between really high confidence and humbleness. So it's a hard balance to do between two.
Sales are really hard, but selling something that's half-baked is even harder. Can you give some tips on like how to pump yourself up and get your first customer beyond watching NHL knockout compilations on YouTube?
What I'm finding, and granted, my business is a little bit more service-oriented than a lot of startups, but I think the relationships really matter, and like Manish was alluding to, people are going long on you, and that's kind of what you need, right? You need initial customers that are bought into your vision, are excited about what they're doing, and excited about what you're doing, and you're giving them the opportunity to go along with the ride. Now, that's not going to be everybody, right? But that's kind of what you need. And the markets that we sell into, I mean, they're crowded markets. There's alternatives out there. There are other people that have been doing this for longer, so you have to really, inspire in those initial conversations and find first customers that are stoked about what you're trying to do and the problem you're trying to solve. That's what I've found.
I also think, I mean, it is real feedback. So maybe like there's a lot of companies, the answer is going to be there isn't a market for this, because for me, especially, one of my learnings was just charge earlier. Like I wanted to put my product out for free at first, but then when I look at my competitors, like people are using Craigslist, people are buying and selling on a subreddit, like, which is the worst experience, but people are doing it. And so to me, it was actually, this is a challenge. I need to charge people, even when my product is not close to the final vision that I want, to see if there's something here.
I guess I'll how do you deal with this feeling of defeat whenever you find out that your competitors are doing something similar, better way, cheaper way? How do you deal with that feeling that sucks so much and it's hard to break through?
And that stuff is real, okay? You might be working on a feature, you thought you were the only one, and next thing you know, they just launched it, you thought that was your differentiator, right? I think that stuff is real, but at the same time, that can be a motivator for continuing to evolve your differentiation, right? So don't get stuck on this is the feature that will take us to moon. It's constant paranoia of what everybody else is doing. What else should we be doing? So that it's just real. There's no other way other than just constant paranoia of what else can we do to connect the dots. I would say it gives me to the point of one of the fundamental ways people say, hey, you want to build a product, go talk to customers, right? Absolutely. The best way to understand the problem is to talk to the customers. The best way to know the solution for it is not the customers won't tell you the right answer. So in innovations, truly are connecting the dots that others have not seen, right? That's the actual definition of innovation, connecting the dots that others don't even see. So I would say is continuing to understand customers' problem, but whatever answer they think you need to do as an answer, don't take that as an answer. Correlate that 100 different places and see what other dots can you connect that others have not figured out to connect yet. That's what I would say, is maintaining that focus.
Time for probably one more question. So, back, yeah.
I had a question in regards to attracting talent. You were talking about customers and relationships, and in tech specifically, there seems to be a big demand for good employees to help execute the vision. I was just curious about any advice, strategies that you guys had in regards to attracting that top talent to work for you.
I think you guys are further along in the journey.
So I would say I am so blessed. I have about 12 people on my team now, and every single one of them is a big person, as I defined earlier, okay? And I would say every single one of them potentially could leave any day and go find a better paying job. The reason they're here, still with me, is they trust me, and they see the vision of what this could be. So I think it's, as a CEO, and you can read many books about it, you have many, many jobs, but your number one job is to be the chief trust officer. They trust you that you will always watch their back. And trust me, in the moment, sometimes I'm thinking this and that is going on, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's the best outcome for my employee? Once they feel that, trust me, they will go to the nth degree to be with you, even though they get offers from other places. So that and your vision to go build something big and solve real problems in the world, that's intrinsic motivation that keep people with you. Extrinsic motivation, people will leave for $10 higher, or $1,000 higher, or $1 million higher. Is intrinsic motivation is what keep people with you long term.
I was just going to say, one thing Manish isn't saying is that a lot of his team is international. His co-founder is in Egypt. Do you want to comment just a little bit on how you make that work across boundaries and virtual?
So if you have not heard of this platform called Upwork, okay, go sign up today. So my team, so I have 12 people. My co-founder is in Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt. My AI person is in Finland. My front-end designer is in Belgrade. So between us, we speak 12 languages. We represent 5 different religions and 5 different continents. So again, it's all of us speak so many different languages, but that common trust that, again, as a leader you inspire is the fundamental reason these people are with me for the last 3+ years now. And again, all of them could go somewhere else anytime.
Great. Well, before we wrap, just wanted to introduce Jennifer from Polsinelli, who's our sponsor of the Founder Track.
Hey, thank you guys. I'm Jennifer Evans. I'm the Office Managing Partner of Polsinelli here in Denver. And for those of you who don't know us, we're a national firm, 22 cities, I'm pretty sure, and really a business law firm. So soup to nuts, anything you need to manage your business. I'm personally a healthcare regulatory lawyer. I asked a couple of my corporate guys to come down, but they probably answered their phone or something. But we just want to welcome you. I'll also tell you, as the partner of a startup founder, I know it is so hard. And we've been going through this, JW and I have been going through this for, years now, and the ups and downs. And he actually got startups runner-up of the year several years ago for this. And the challenge continues. So you guys keep working, achieve your vision, change it if you have to, but stay true to all your core work because we really need your innovation. So call us at Polsinelli if we can help. I hope you have a great session.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks to our panelists.